England. We'll start with 1-minute intros, and they're going to talk the way they're seated. So we'll start with Scott, I believe, with your 1-minute intro.
Hello everybody, my name is Scott Anderson. I served on the town council for a long time. I've got some experience, I've seen the community change a lot. I want to indulge everyone for just a second about my friend Abby, who I served with through some pretty crazy council terms. Abby was a unique character. He was a little bit gruff. People were kind of afraid of him, I think. But underneath it all, Abby was a sweet guy. One time, we were raising the, I'm going to use a red card. We were raising the fee on the Start Bus pass. And there was a woman in the audience who stood up and said there was just no way she could afford it. And Abby forced the vote forward, and we raised those rates. And then he took a recess, and he walked out, and he wrote her a check. He was a sweet guy.
Hi, I'm Perry Stern. I'm running for town council. I encourage you to pick up one of these nifty Perry for Council business cards on the back table, tell you everything you want to know about me. Because I'd like you to consider the following. As you listen to our responses this evening, and no matter what the topic, I want to emphasize the following. I'm consistent and transparent. I will not say one thing as a candidate and then vote differently as a council member. I'm pragmatic and responsible. I fully support affordable housing, but I'm the only candidate that's willing to say that quantity is not the only answer. I'm inclusive and mature. I welcome different opinions. I welcome different strategies and ideas. I want to pull our community together, not push it apart. And I'm dependable and ready. You know who I am. I'm active, I'm informed, and I'm knowledgeable. I've been doing this work for years. I regularly attend meetings, submit letters to the editor, participate in our community. I look forward to the conversation this evening.
Thanks, Mary. Thank you all for putting this on. I know a lot of work goes into this. It doesn't go unnoticed. And thank you all for showing up in person tonight. I know many of you, I'm Devin Beeman. I actually grew up here in Jackson and raising my family here. I've been everything from, I grew up rodeoing, I've been a 4-H leader, and it is my adult part of my life, most recently a Teton County Planning Commissioner, that just opened my eyes to so many other issues that we have in the community. You are going to hear little tiny sound bites from us tonight. It is really hard to get to know any of us in a 60-second answer, or even using our red card. So I want you to know that I'm committed to this community. I grew up here, I'm here now, and I don't have any plans of leaving. I want to see this be a place where our children can come back to, our seniors can stay, and we can have a real community that thrives. Because right now, that's going away, and it's slipping through our fingers. We don't have much time left. Question me, question the other candidates. Call us out and say, what did you mean by that? Research us. Call me for coffee anytime. I'd love to visit with you one-on-one.
My name is Kevin Regan, and I'm running for town council. I'd like to take a moment to thank the League of Women Voters, the journalists in the room, and most importantly, the people here in this audience and the people watching online who are engaged in this important election. I can bring a balanced voice to the Jackson Town Council. I'm an environmental and land use lawyer. I've served as a law and policy advisor to protect our water Jackson Hole, and I also serve on the START board. I grew up on a dirt road in a rural area, and I've seen the effects of bad development decisions. I watched forests turned into parking lots and the fields I used to play in paved over. I want to see us do better. I want to help Jackson make very intentional decisions about how our community evolves. Working together, we can improve water quality, we can improve transportation, and we can improve the economy and create affordable housing. I can help Jackson make carefully reasoned decisions that consider the nuance of different perspectives. I'm asking for your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, for your insightful intros. For this session, our media panelists are Mary Ann from Buckrail and Rebecca from Jackson Hole News and Guide. Our first media question is for Mary Ann, and Perry will answer first.
All right, hello candidates. How many town council meetings have you attended in the past year? What's your stance on attending meetings in person?
Oh, countless, and current town council can attest to that. I attend town council meetings regularly whenever I can. I do have the luxury, I am retired, so I do have the time during the day or in the evening to go. A lot of people don't have that luxury. I think it's really important, especially running for council, to attend as many meetings as you possibly can. And when I'm elected, I will be at every meeting.
I love going to town council meetings now. I listen to it a lot of the time at home with an earbud in, and while I'm cooking dinner, helping with homework. It's a tough time of night to get there unless there's something actually on the agenda that I want to give public comment about. But I always like to listen in because I want to know what's going on with our community. I want to know what the folks we put in those seats are saying so that I can follow up afterwards. I do attend the meetings. I've served on the planning commission, which I mentioned, and I'm looking forward to blocking off all those dates next year on my calendar and serving as a town councilwoman for you.
One of the things that I bring to the table as a candidate is I show up. I've been to countless public meetings in this community. I regularly attend town council meetings, town planning commission meetings, county commission meetings, county planning commission meetings. When I was active as law and policy advisor to protect our water, Jackson Hole, there were all kinds of additional public meetings I would attend. But there's lots of other meetings that I attend in my personal time. I like public meetings. I like the opportunity to see what's going on. It's not always exciting, but at least you can see what's going on. And to build relationships with the people that serve on our volunteer boards, our electeds, and the people that take the time to show up and give public comment. If elected, I will attend town council meetings, and I will read the packets. I will be prepared, and I will give it my all. I'm very passionate about local politics. I've been involved in elections here on the ground in 2020 and 2022, and this community has such an engaged populace. I love it. I love knocking doors and learning about what people think. If elected, I'll be very accessible, and I'm always looking for good ideas and for people sharing their thoughts, their experiences, and the problems that town council can address.
Oh, can't forget you.
Well, sadly, this discussion is a testament to, I don't know, no social life, I don't know. I haven't attended a lot of town council meetings in purpose, but unfortunately I have watched almost every single town council meeting and workshop and county commission meeting for that matter as well. Part of that's due to the fact that we cover news at my radio station, Jackson Hole Radio, KMTN, KJAX, KZJH, etc. So I have to wear sort of two hats as I'm watching those meetings. One, to try to find some snarky stories to cover, and two, to try to stay up to date on what's going on with the community. So this year I've spent a lot of time watching the town council. Before this year, I don't know, a few hundred town council meetings, maybe 500 town council meetings, it's hard to say. But it is important to show up for the meetings and to understand what's going on and to stay engaged. I could argue that maybe there's too many meetings on the schedule, Arn and Jessica, and maybe we could take a look at that in the future. Streamline things, make them more efficient.
Thank you. Rebecca will ask the next question, and Devin will answer first.
What have you observed in the current town council that you'd like to emulate and or do differently?
Oh, I knew when you were going to ask the question, we were going to get into the hard-hitting stuff. One thing that I have been frustrated with when I reach out to our local electeds, not all of them, but many of them either ignore me or I get some sort of rude comment back. And I'm always very careful and thoughtful with my emails and my comments because that's just who I am. I want to respect people and have people respect me back, and that's earned. I want to be a voice on the council that really listens. When you reach out, even if I think, oh my gosh, that can't be happening here, they're off their rocker, I will never treat you like that, ever. I will listen, I will sit down, and I will understand what's going on, and then go back and see what we can do about it as a council. So that's my answer.
In terms of similarity, I have a lot of appreciation because I've been to so many of these meetings, how hard it is. I remember sitting at the moratorium meeting, and I think we got out of there at 11:30. So that's that work ethic and the desire to take bold moves like the moratorium. We're probably going to talk about that more, but that's a bold and important decision. The library bell went off twice last time during this. We'll see what it's all for. But so in terms of similarity, that willingness to take bold action. In terms of differently,
So, you'll get done. Yeah.
so I was at the town council meeting on Monday, and town council is not an individual sport, it's a team sport. And to get anything done, you need to have 3 people rowing in the same direction. And I think there's been some times where the current council could have done better in rowing the same direction. And one of the things that I really pride myself in is the ability to build bridges and to understand different perspectives. I currently have a really good working relationship with the current electeds and a lot of the town and county staff. And my hope is that I can work to encourage civility, communication, and trust. And vulnerability is the currency of trust, and I try to really get to know the people that are behind the scenes working on these things. For example, this week, in the last couple of weeks, I met with the housing director, I've met with the town manager, Tyler Sinclair, and just trying to understand some of these issues and the people involved. And I'm looking forward to developing those relationships and getting things done.
So the question is something that I admire and something that I don't.
Or one or the other.
Oh, one or the other. Well, I'll try to answer it both ways. I really admire the amount of thoughtfulness that I see in a lot of our elected officials when they're discussing issues. I think that in particular there are several individual council and commission members that really seem to be very thoughtful and very concerned to try to learn all angles of the issue and before they make a decision. On the other hand, sometimes there's a lot of talking and a lot of thinking on the subject matter in the meeting. I prefer a more streamlined meeting where people have reviewed the information ahead of the meeting and are prepared to ask questions and make a vote. So I like the thoughtfulness. I just wish it didn't take so long.
I think our mayor and town council are doing really the best job that they can. It's not an easy job, and I think they work very hard at it, and I thank them. As your town council person, this is my pledge to you. I will always put the needs of our town first and demonstrate straightforward, transparent leadership. I will make decisions on behalf of and based on public policy, not just one neighborhood, special interest, or segment of our town. I'll be consistent and dependable. I'll participate in meetings with dignity and decorum, and I will welcome differences of opinion. I will work to prevent problems, not just solve them when they happen. I will not offer quick answers when I'm not sure, and when I'm not sure, I'll find the answer and I will get back to you. I won't bypass the system, and I won't let others bypass the system, including the town council. I will avoid short-term gains at the expense of long-term losses. I'll be the best team member and leader as I possibly can for you. Thank you.
Terrific. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you have a lot of questions. The candidates are ready to answer your questions. We've only had one question written from the audience. We have cards, so if you have questions, Sandy will pick them up from you and take them to the media panelists. But the next question will be from Mary Ann, and Kevin will answer it first.
Thank you. The town is facing some issues with its budget. What do you plan to do to address this? Would you support cutting services and/or employees?
There's no question we have a budget difficulty. This past fiscal year 25 budget that was recently approved, we had to tap into $4 million in reserves. And in order to right the ship, we're going to need to find a way to cut expenses. So to right the ship, we're going to have to find a way to cut expenses and also increase revenues. And I've watched the budget process, both at the town and the county level, and it is difficult because the reality is there's not a ton of fat to trim. And a big part of the current problem is that the salaries are going up because of the cost of living here, and that's really putting a strain on the budget. In terms of solutions to try to increase revenue, I don't want to increase property taxes. Again, we only charge $500,000. I know homeowners are suffering. I think the important first thing to do is we got to get this sped measure passed, because it's something that the community needs for a new justice center, and also it will give relief to the town in terms of the new funding arrangement between the town and county. I don't want to see employees laid off. There's a high level of services that we enjoy in this community. I mean, just as an example, the new rec center, a lot of us love it. It required 12 additional employees, so there's things that we got to figure out. But long story short, I want to try to right the ship and not cut people's salaries off.
Well, the budget is kind of dangerously bad and frightening. As Kevin said, $4 million in the hole this year, $4 million next year, $6 million the year after. I'm sure it's not going to happen that way, because action will need to be taken before that happens. And so what I want to do is have the staff, our professional staff, dig into the budget with a zero-based budgeting approach, putting the services that we offer that are life, safety, and health based first, funding them to the full extent, and then looking at what else we can afford. At a certain point, we run out of money, and we've got to make some decisions about what the core services the town can provide, and whatever else we can provide on top of that if there's money left over. Certainly revenue is the other side of it. I will never vote to raise property tax. We have other options. There are sales tax measures. There's a potential of utilizing some lodging tax money. The community can agree on that. But the first thing that has to happen is we've got to dig in, and the new council, whoever it is, has got to take part in assessing the expenses first. Expenses first, revenue second.
Yeah, I agree with some of the things that you guys are saying already. The gap between our town's revenue and expenses is growing. So we definitely have to deal with that. In general, I am not in favor of raising property taxes as a way of raising revenue, and that's a whole other conversation. Reserves are reserves, not an extra bank account, and I think that we're a little too comfortable dipping into our reserves. I have some creative ideas for increasing revenue without overburdening our residents. I think that we can look at a variety of fees that can be assessed more on services that visitors use and not place the burden on our local residents. We also need to stop waiving fees for developers. We also do need to figure out how and where we can reduce expenses. We can't just work on raising revenue. We do need to look at reducing expenses. One very important caveat, and I think as Scott just said, maybe Kevin as well, we need to make sure that we are funding our core services. So public works, health and human services, public safety, and so on. These core services must be protected and funded fully. That's what makes our town go, what makes our town function. So we do need to make sure that they're funded fully.
Wow, you're gonna have 4 candidates that seem to agree on the general idea of this topic. I'm shocked that we continue to go in the hole as a community and a town. I would not run my business this way. I would not run my family's budget this way. So I'm not sure why we're running our town this way. I agree with the other candidates that have said we need to start at the bottom, we need to make sure our core services are funded, and then work our way up from there. We've also got to get creative, like Perry said, with new revenue streams. We cannot just continue to tax people that are already feeling it in every other way in their life. You go to the grocery store, you're spending quadruple, it feels like right now. Your property taxes, people are having to leave the valley because they can't pay their property taxes anymore. We have got to get rid of this mentality that like, let's add another penny, let's add a $500,000. It's not that big of a deal. Well, it is a big deal. And I hear certain electeds say, well, the tourists, they pay half the sales tax, they do these things. I'd like to see where that stat has been updated in the last decade. We can't rely on those things anymore. We've got to get creative, we've got to fund our core services, and we've got to stop going in the hole. It's not going to be a fun job, but you've got candidates here that are ready to do it, and I'm one of them.
Great. Rebecca will ask the 4th question, and Scott will answer first.
We have an audience question here asking about how you would handle redevelopment, citing the 2022 approval of the Ranch Inn redevelopment, which we're now seeing that get underway. The moratorium was very much a reaction to redevelopment, a project that would have been, the biggest sized building the town has seen in its history, at least commercial private building. There's a lot of talk now about the block where Pearl Street Bagels sits. There's a little historic cabin that has been preserved through some incentive tools, but the rest of the block might be up for redevelopment. And so I think the question is, how would you handle redevelopment? And what's your vision for where to go, knowing that there is a lot of investment interest in redevelopment?
Well, the Pearl Street Bagel thing is kind of freaking me out. Could you imagine if we lost Pearl Street Bagels? That would just be awful. I'm not sure what we can do about it. I think that as the rules have been changed over the past several years, moving to some different methods of doing the land development regulations and the zoning and whatnot, I don't think anyone imagined the level of wealth that would move into the community that could buy a whole city block and develop it, buy every single family house on Redmond Street and turn it into a massive, huge house with no yard and a dysfunctional ARU on it that's not rented to anybody who really needs it. I think that kind of came as a little bit of a surprise to a lot of us who have been here forever. I mean, when I moved here, we were all poor, it seemed like. And now, those of us who are left struggle to deal with this level of change. Things do change. Arne said it earlier, things change. We've been through change before, and I accept that, I guess. I don't really like it. I hated to see the Ranch Inn come down just because, oh my God, one day you're driving by it and everything looks normal, and the next day, it's just gone. Like so much of what we like about this town. So we've got to readdress the LDRs. We've got to take a look at bulk and scale, at design, and maybe we need to try to set aside a little funding to preserve the historical things that we like.
This is like a 10-minute answer.
Here. I got you.
Honestly, for years now, our community has been caught flat-footed while developers play the long game, amassing properties and exploiting the incredible value that exists here. Developers are not bad people. They're smart and they're sophisticated, they're working in their own self-interest, and they want to make money, and they are playing by our rules. The moratorium was a good thing. It's a step in the right direction, but it's a Band-Aid. It exposed a lot of issues that we have here in town regarding development, regarding the overall plan for our town. If you haven't read the guest shot from yesterday's paper, it's excellent, and I encourage you to read it. There are a lot of things that we need to be addressing. We need to look at the lodging overlay. We need to look at the 2-for-1 workforce bonus, which is just incentivizing development. Our design guidelines are 20 years old. Our zoning and LDRs are not having the impact that was originally envisioned. Developers are playing by our rules. Why should you vote for me? I'm ready to take this issue on day one. I'm not new to the issues, I'm not new to the work, and I'm not new to our town. We need counsel with the maturity and the temperament to ask the hard questions and make the hard decisions, and in the words of Michelle Obama, to do something. Good job.
I'm not surprised by what's going on. We have created the situation that we are in, and we have laid out the rules for the developers. I've been watching for a decade as people buy up contiguous lots in town, knowing that the rules allow them to build bigger and bigger buildings. I testified in front of the governor's regulatory task force. That's something that you're getting with me as a candidate and a town councilwoman, is I'm very comfortable in Cheyenne, I'm very comfortable working with our legislators, and so many of the decisions that they make down there affect us here. So when I did this presentation, I asked them, I posed the question, what would it have looked like if we did things a little differently here? We've done a lot of things right, but we've also done a lot of things wrong. So how do we go back, and what would it have looked like? Every time when you go back, and I analyzed all the data from the real estate stuff, every time the comp plan was changed, there were more regulations, there were more fees. The property values went up and up and up. You could lay them right over each other on a map. So the moratorium, excellent. I've been saying it needed to be done for a long time, but there is a whole lot more work to be done. They're going to get through maybe a couple items during that time frame. And next year, you need to elect council members that are willing to start on day one and fix this stuff. Because like I mentioned, we're running out of time. These lots are going to be developed, and we're not going to have them anymore. They will be, before we know it, we're going to see Gucci, Louis Vuitton downtown. It's not what I want to see here. I don't think it's what you guys want to see either. So we got to change it.
As I mentioned, I grew up in a rural area and I saw bad development. And as a kid, I felt a real sense of loss. And that inspired me to go study environmental science and later to become an environmental and land use lawyer. When it comes to development, right now, the community is very polarized, where there's a lot of people who want more growth and there's people who want no growth. And in my view, we got to try to find some balance, and it's not easy. And I agree with some things that were said earlier about, it's about this place. It's not just the buildings, it's the natural environment we're ecosystem stewards of, and it's the people who are here. There's a moratorium in place. There might be some more discussion about that, but it seems to me that what we really need to do is start talking about our comprehensive plan that lays out the vision for what we want our community to look like. Who lives here? Where do they come from if they commute? What aspects of our community do we want to really preserve? However, a comprehensive plan, it's not enforceable. It's the zoning and land development regulations. But if we don't look where we're going, we're going to end up somewhere we don't want to be. So it's about trying to figure out how to balance, again, something else we have to consider are private property rights. there's some danger here with this moratorium. It's a limited surgical strike, and if it extends too long, that could draw some fire from Cheyenne that might really interfere with our ability to shape what we want to do here in our community. So redevelopment has a lot of potential, but I think it's really important to encourage a collaborative process and make sure we're measuring twice and cutting once.
Absolutely.
Or should Scott go first? Did you go already?
Did I go already? I think I already did.
No, that's okay, go Perry, and then Scott, if you want to go, you can, but Perry, go first.
Okay, I would disagree with something that Kevin just said. We don't need a comprehensive plan, we need an urban design plan. We don't have a comprehensive view of what our town could look like, should look like, given our zoning and LDRs. We don't have a visual representation. We have lots of lists and words, but we don't have a visual representation of what our town could look like given the state of what we've got. And there was something else that I forgot, but okay, sorry.
Did you want to use your red card, Scott?
I don't need to use the red card.
Okay. So, excellent audience question. We are taking your questions. They are being considered. So, audience members, if you want to write a question, please submit them. The fifth question will be from Mary Ann.
The pathway system sometimes feels like a dangerous place these days. Do you have any ideas for improving safety on our town pathways? What is your stance on the regulation of e-bikes?
Who's
I
first?
think it's
It's Perry goes first.
Okay. I think a lot of people aren't going to like this. I would say that we need to start issuing citations for people who are adults and children who are going way too fast on e-bikes and are endangering the lives of other people on pathways. After one warning, I believe the vehicle should be impounded, and the owner of the vehicle or the parent of the owner of the vehicle should be required to pay a fine of some importance to get the vehicle back. I think that it's gotten that bad, that dangerous, that serious. After a parent or a person has to pay a significant fine to get their vehicle back, I think behavior will change.
I'm not sure what our community is waiting for. Is it a child dying on an e-bike? Is that what it's going to take to get some real policy put in place about this? I don't know why something stronger hasn't been done about it. I'd like to see rules around it. I agree with Perry that you get caught breaking the rules, you get a warning, and the second time, you're in trouble. Your parents are paying the bill. I have a 17-year-old, he had an e-bike. I put the fear of you-know-who in him. That I know everybody around town, and if I see you driving like a fool, you'll never have it again. I'm not every parent. And I think that in addition to what Perry said, because I agree with all that, I'd like to see it all put in place. I don't know if it's legal yet, so we're gonna have to find out. 16 and under should absolutely have to have a helmet on. Helmet, period. I see 6 of them piled on a bike with no helmets. So I'd love to find a way, I think I saw Michelle in here, if we could make a way to do that. Maybe we need to say you can't ride an e-bike on the pathways in the town limits. Maybe you need to ride on the road like the other people. And if you're headed out in the park and you're headed out to the village, you ride your e-bike there. I'm all for getting this under control before somebody gets seriously hurt or killed, because it's only a matter of time at this point.
There's no question we need to start doing more about e-bikes and safety. Some of you may know this about me, but I actually don't have a car, so whether I'm riding e-bike or walking, I'm on the pathways a lot. And like a lot of people here, I've seen some dangerous incidents. And some of you might remember last summer, I got hurt like just getting on the e-bike. I just got it, it was like 70 pounds and injured my wrist. So they're dangerous, but they're also something that really makes Jackson unique. you go to like a concert or an event or old bills and you see all these bikes, these e-bikes. It's one of the things that makes us really special and has a lot of potential to help create alternatives to single occupancy vehicle travel. I know there's been a little bit of controversy at the town council about whether to take action and when. I agree we need to start doing something. And I think a lot of it has to do with education. I think the manpower is limited. So excuse me, there's two things I think we should do. We should try to get consistency among the regulations for different jurisdictions. Because if you're going out to the village, if you're even passing through Garment Park, you're in a different jurisdiction. So we got to come up with some consistency to help make the rules of the road easier. It gets a little tricky where things are in Hidden Hollow. There's a place where your choices are either go on the sidewalk or ride out in traffic. So we got to look at some of those things. But then also, I agree with some of the other people have said about enforcement. I think mandatory education, class, it's not just children, it's adults too that are breaking some of these rules, but especially with children. There's a lot of potential for education. I agree with the idea of helmets. I think citations, it could have a role, but people that don't have cars, that might have lower income, I don't want to see them penalized.
Well, it is obviously an issue. We've all seen the multiple kids on one bike with no helmets. It's bad enough on the pathway, it's even more dangerous as they work their way into town. Friends of Pathways has been doing a lot of work on education. They're continuing to work on it. I think that part of the issue is that the town, the county, the school district, all need to sort of work together to come up with a more comprehensive effort to teach these kids what's safe and what's not. As far as enforcement, I can't really add. That sounds like a pretty good deal. My dad would have come up with that solution back in the day. But obviously we're not here to punish people. We just want people to be safe. And we don't want anyone to get hurt. And we want to make sure that the pathways are usable by everyone who needs to get on them, not just super fast e-bike riders, which there seems to be a lot of. So yeah, it's an issue that needs to be engaged, and the sooner the better. I'm not sure what we're waiting on.
Great. The sixth question will be asked by Rebecca, and Devin will go first.
So I'm combining two questions because they sort of show the different perspectives you have to balance. Where do you stand on the density for the Virginian project? Do we have an obligation to maximize density in housing for our community, or allow a local minority to reduce housing opportunities and affordability? That's one question. Then another question is, for every one-bedroom housing the town develops equals at least 2 cars plus creating parking and traffic issues, would you continue to support development of government affordable housing, knowing the impact it has on the quality of life in town? So I think you just hear a question about housing and density and traffic.
If I can remember all of that question, you all should vote for me just for that. The Virginian, I support the project. The biggest concerns I'm hearing are about the traffic. How are we going to handle that? Density, the Shelter JH forum last night, density was a lot. There were a lot of questions about density. So it's nuanced because adding more density doesn't mean we're going to get more of the housing units that we want to see here. We've actually added more density in some of these spot zone neighborhoods in our community, and we're not getting multifamily units. We're getting a different kind of housing that I don't think is what our electeds intended when they re-spot zone these areas. It's actually driven the land value up, so these old homes are coming down, new big ones are going up, and we're not actually getting the kind of housing that was intended by these changes. So we've got to go back and adjust that. The other thing to consider is the value to the community that comes with the extra density. There is so much private philanthropy and subsidy that has to go into these projects to making them truly affordable, that it reaches a tipping point with density where you go, more isn't necessarily always better. We might be able to house the people that really need the housing the most, that are the most vulnerable, our service workers, our seniors, who are often forgotten in these conversations, quite frankly. Housing those people there and figuring out what that cost benefit is. So I'm not one to ever say more density is the answer. There's a way to hit the sweet spot with it, and that's what we have to do when we analyze these developments with density.
As Devin noted, the shelter discussion last night really fleshed out some of these issues. In terms of the Virginian part one of the question. I support the Virginian project. I think all the candidates do. It's a question of scale. And my current thinking is I tend more towards the proposal that creates more housing, more affordable housing. Some of the discussion, the last joint meeting where this really came up, talked about this idea of forever homes. I tend more towards, there's people that have no home at all. Affordable housing can't be everything to everybody. But that being said, the current proposal, which is 226 units, that's not maxing out the development potential. You could probably squeeze 400 or 500 units in there. But there's a partner, Penrose, that I think has really good reputation and really good designs. At the same time, there are things that we need to figure out before we commit to a course of action. That's completing the traffic study, and that's completing the market study, and also making sure we hear concerns of neighbors about traffic in particular. When it comes to the second part of the question, which is about development and transportation, many of you know I don't have a car. I have a driver's license. I'm not telling other people that they shouldn't drive a car, but I would love to see us create alternatives. I serve on the START board because I think we're doing a lot of great things, but as somebody who regularly rides it, we can be doing better. And where this interfaces with development is examining minimum parking requirements and making sure there's the infrastructure and transportation options to try new and effective strategies.
Well, I'd hate to see 400 or 500 units on the Virginian RV park. I prefer less density rather than what's been proposed in the RFP. But that being said, what's more important to me than the total density is the spread of the unit types. I support workforce housing, which is not the same as affordable housing, but I support affordable housing more. Over 80% of the people who say they need housing in the valley fit into a category that is the affordable category, the lowest income category. So I think when we're spending public funds to the level that we spent to buy this piece of property, the focus should be on housing the people that need it the most, in my opinion. Secondly, I would say there's a concept of return on investment. We brought this up last night. We are not developers. The community's not a developer. We're not tasked with maximizing a development to the utmost extent for the return of our money. We are tasked to make a return to the community, which is not the same. It has to take into account the neighbors, the neighborhood, the traffic, and all the other impacts that come along with it. So, I've been watching the process. I noticed at the last meeting there was a conversation about dialing back the density. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. And what was the second part of the question?
Yeah, just if you do pack in a lot of density, how do you deal with the needs of parking and transportation that come with the density?
This was another topic last night.
Would you like to use your?
Yeah, please. Ideally it'd be great if people didn't drive their cars, or they only had one car in a 2 or 3 person household. My experience living in this town is that that's just not the way it is. And maybe it can be that way someday. Maybe people will use transit. I know in the wintertime it's particularly difficult. Devin brought up last night, the idea of one side of the street parking during the winter. Maybe we need to finally cave into that to help alleviate some of the problems. But there's difficulties with all of it. And I just can tell you that any project that I've seen that's been put in the ground that has had less than the required amount of parking has always turned into a bit of a blank show. Just saying.
Rebecca, could you repeat the question? Questions?
Sure, one is, where do you stand on density for the Virginian project? And then the other one is, would you continue to support the development of government affordable housing, knowing the impact it has on quality of life in town? And they were specifically referencing parking and traffic.
Okay, and there was also some issue about neighbors.
That just, I think, mentioning that opposition to affordable housing, well, they didn't say neighbors, but they said a vocal minority to reduce housing opportunities.
Okay, got it, okay. Yeah, we talked about this a little bit last night. This is another 10-minute question. That's okay. The Virginian is progressing. It is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I fully support developing that property. But I also think we need to take the time to get it right. Here's where we are at. At the August 5th Jim meeting, the town and county elected officials could not reach consensus on the density for that property, and they tasked staff with going back to the developer to come back with an alternate proposal at approximately 150 units, which was the baseline for the RFP that was originally sent out. That hopefully will be returned to the public at an upcoming Jim meeting. In the meantime, I spoke with several local architects about their thoughts on the property, and their general consensus is that 226 is probably a little bit too much for that property. 150, in fact, seems to be a better fit. We'll see. Honestly, I'm kind of tired, and I think other people are as well. I'm tired of community members who express legitimate concerns about density, being referred to as a vocal minority of neighbors. Community members are not saying no. I am not saying no. Community members are expressing concerns. Honestly, people are exhausted with the divisiveness. I will work to bring people together to achieve consensus on this project and all others.
Great. And Kevin is going to use his red card. Okay.
Just wanted to touch on a few items related to the Virginian that I wish I would have said, and also hearing some of these other perspectives. One of my concerns is if we drop the Virginian project down to 150, it's going to become a lot more expensive. The current proposal, we spent about $28 million, town and county, to obtain the Virginian RV park. It's going to cost us about $10 million. We have a partner, Penrose, who's going to bring private equity to the situation. And there still are some numbers that got to get fine-tuned. There are still fingers on the board, but if we reduce the scale of it, it doesn't pencil out as well. And that's something we got to take into consideration. And also, when you look at the density of this site, it's actually lower than some of the other densities of other affordable housing developments in this area. And I do agree with what Perry was saying is neighbors have legitimate concerns. When I was out knocking doors, that was one of the main things I heard about, is how is this going to affect the traffic on Snow King? So we got to get that right. And at the same time, we kind of have to look at the big picture where, there's people that are commuting from out of town to come work here, and that creates problems. So we got to kind of look at the big picture, and we got to make sure we don't make things worse with transportation. And I'm looking forward to those discussions on the Virginian.
We've had 6 really good questions, varied questions, and that's why having these forums is really important. We now have time to hear the closing comments. 1 minute, but you want to use it again?
I have 2, is that right?
Yeah, everyone has 2? Yeah, use it again, fine.
I just want to take a quick minute, literally, to say one of the things that we didn't hear about as much tonight is the important role we play in this community as the stewards of the entrance to the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. And one of my real priorities, as many of you know, is working with water quality. I served as law and policy advisor for Protect Our Water Jackson Hole. I was at the U.S. Department of Justice in the Environment Division. I've worked for Earth Justice. And environmental issues can be very divisive at times, but in this community, there's a lot of consensus around improving our water quality. And there was a lot of hard work that went into the water quality management plan. I was involved in that process. And the town's doing a lot of great things. And a lot of the water quality management plan had to do with things at the county level. But there's things that we can do at town level to harmonize with that plan And also, we have an important responsibility in terms of the town. It owns and manages the wastewater treatment plant. And there's some real challenges about meeting the needs of the community. And I think it's time to start having discussions about how we're going to fund a new wastewater treatment plant. I'd like to just, conclusion? No.
The conclusion, and you actually go first.
Okay.
You have 1
So-
minute.
Pardon me, just like, I was stuck in clean water mode. But again, I'm Kevin Regan, and I'm running for town council. And I'm enjoying this campaign process. I see it as a job interview with the residents of the town of Jackson. I'm committed to this community. I've been working hard to improve water quality and transportation. And I already have a good working relationship with the electeds and the town and county staff. My mission is to improve the quality of life for all Jackson residents. If elected, I'll continue to show up and work hard. A vote for me is a vote for water that's safe to drink and clean to swim in. A vote for me is a vote for transportation solutions, starting with permanent and workable airport service. A vote for me is a vote for affordable housing, including getting the Virginian project across the finish line. I'm pleased asking for your vote on November 5th. My website is reganforjackson.com. I've got some flyers in the lobby. I'm happy to chat with you, and there's also yard signs out there. So thank you for your time tonight.
Scott.
Well, thanks for coming, everybody. It's nice to see you all. I think we have one more forum before the election, the Rotary Forum, coming up at some point in October, so hopefully we'll see you again. My name's Scott Anderson. We've spent a lot of time talking about how terrible everything is tonight. So I want to take a moment to say that in spite of all of the challenges that we have, the budget, housing, traffic, etc., I'm actually optimistic. There's a lot of good folks that have put their name in the hat for running for town council and for county commission this year. And I think working together we can accomplish some pretty big things, and we can solve our problems. We can tackle the budget, we can tackle housing, and all the rest of it. I served for 12 years on the town council, 12 different budgets, all of them balanced, I'm pretty sure. I offer the experience, I'm independent, and I'm optimistic. Scott Anderson, vote for me.
You're a glass half full kind of guy. I'm Perry Stern. There are 4 of us running for council. You get to vote for 2. Why should you vote for me? I've already established a consistent track record of being community first. As a private citizen, for the past 6 years-ish, I've put in the hours, I've done the work, I've shown up at the meetings, I've provided the public comment, I've written the letters to the editor and the guest shots. I've canvassed the neighborhoods. I've encouraged a diverse set of ideas and broad-based conversations. No, I had one.
I'm trying to help.
I know, I had one. Still.
Yeah, you can get 2. You have 1 more if you want.
Okay. I've canvassed the neighborhoods. I've encouraged a diverse set of ideas and a broad-based conversation that welcomes different opinions and ideas. My campaign is based on talking about real issues, providing real solutions for overdevelopment and its far-reaching impacts on our community and on our lives. I address issues in a pragmatic, substantive way. I have the maturity, the good judgment, the trustworthiness, and the temperament that results in good leadership. I speak directly, not harshly, sometimes a little harshly, on issues, and I don't give soft answers or platitudes, because that's not what you deserve and that's not who I am. If I know something, I'll tell you. If I don't have an answer, I'll tell you, and I'll follow up when I do have the answer. I will be the best team member and leader that I can possibly be for our entire community. I ask for your vote on November 5th on Perry Stern.
There is one more forum coming up, actually. It's the Teton Board of Realtors is hosting a forum at the Senior Center on Monday, October 14th at 4 o'clock. That announcement's gonna come out soon if it hasn't already.
It's at the lodge, it's not.
Oh, they changed it?
I think it's at the lodge.
They told me it was gonna be the Senior Center. I'm looking at Connie. Anyway, neither here nor there. I'll use one of my red cards since I just spent a minute talking about another forum. Less talk and more action is what you're gonna be getting when you vote for me. I make data-driven decisions. If you show me the information and it makes sense, then let's move forward with it. Or let's come up with another idea. We don't need to kick the can down the road on so many of these decisions that continually get pushed along, just like the e-bikes and so many other things. There's no reason we can't take action now and get the work done and stop over-analyzing things. I understand that data and analyzing and studies are important and they serve their place, but we have reached an paralysis by analysis, I feel like. We've got to just make some decisions and move forward. I'm ready, you guys. I have done my time. I ran last time and I heard you all say, we want a candidate with more experience. So I went and I served on the County Planning Commission. I got the experience. I understand wildlife issues. I understand water issues. I understand all the county issues. And seeing how the county side works is gonna make me a better councilwoman for you. I don't understand just town, I understand the other side of it. So I heard you, I listened, I went out and did things to make myself prepared to go to work on day number 1. Here you go. I'm glad you didn't take it now. One example of the things that I learned while I was campaigning and that I went out and did was I started the Teton Board of Realtors Community Housing Fund. It asks realtors and their clients at every transaction to give back to one of the affordable housing groups in our community because every transaction that we do inherently makes it harder for somebody else to own a home here or to stay in their home. And that is not something that I wanted to be a part of. So we have raised over $750,000 and that was an idea that I got from you guys, from running. So much positive has come from campaigning and learning about our community, and I'm ready to go to work on day 1. I want to work for you, I want to listen to you, and I want to find a way forward for our town that really makes sense, where we can all enjoy living here and not be so stressed out and so negative all the time. Let's get more of a cup half full kind of attitude. Thank you, guys.
Thank you to each one of the candidates running for Jackson's Town Council. It's terrific that you all took time out of your hectic schedules to come to this forum to increase voter awareness. We appreciate your candor and perspectives. And thanks to everyone for coming out tonight to meet the candidates for Jackson Mayor and Jackson Town Council. Kudos to each one of the candidates for your dedication to our community and for your thoughtful comments. We're fortunate to have your leadership, commitment, and passion. And as voters, we're lucky to have such excellent candidates to choose from. We're also much obligated to the media panel for their insightful questions and to the entire forum team, the League of Women Voters of Wyoming, Teton County Library, Jackson Hole News and Guide, Jackson Hole Community Radio, KHOL, and Buckrail, with funding provided by Teton County Library Foundation and Friends and the Community Foundation of Jackson Hole. These forum sessions are being videotaped by Sam Pope with recordings available online at tclib.org after the events. So check them out. And make sure you mark your calendars. We have 3 more upcoming forums. Wednesday, September 25th for the Hospital District Board. Wednesday, October 9th for the Board of Commissioners and the SPET presentation. And Thursday, October 10th for the school board, the school district board candidates. And finally, a big thank you to you, our audience, for striving to become better informed voters. You make a difference. So don't forget to submit your ballots, mail-in ballots, or vote on Tuesday, November 5th. And if you're looking for fun and a way to support informed democracy, come join us at the League of Women Voters. And you don't have to be a woman to join. So until next time, be kind, safe, and healthy. We now have until 8 o'clock for everyone to mingle and meet the candidates. See you at our next forum next Wednesday, September 25th for the Teton County Hospital District Board. Good night. Thanks for coming.